Hello and welcome to the show. So before we begin, the usual apologies because I still have this my nasal congi going on. I say congi, not congi, my nasal congestion. Yeah, I got my nasal congestion still going on. So this is going to be one of those sniffling episodes. Then it's also going to be a commentary on another LinkedIn post, just like the older episode. And this one is going to be a commentary on one of those, LinkedIn has been putting out these things where they put a question. If you comment on it, you earn a certain number of credits or points or whatever. But the thing is, if you answer enough questions, then you get to be, you get a badge on your LinkedIn profile. You get to be featured as some sort of expert and things like that. So in the beginning, I would see these questions and I'd try to answer them from a sales and business development perspective. Of course, with the hope of winning one of those coveted badges on LinkedIn to say that you're a top influencer or you're a top sales voice or a top voice in communications or this and this and that and that. But it's quite a bit of work. So for me, I just started ignoring them. But I figure some of those questions are really good. So rather than just ignore them outright, I think I'll just take those questions and then answer them over here on the podcast so that for those of you who are following me on LinkedIn, you see one of those questions and you ever wonder, what would my response be? Then you could always catch my response in these episodes. But by the way, my own recommendation is don't be like me and don't be lazy. If you see these sorts of questions and you have a well thought out, valid point of view, you might as well go ahead and answer, because I've seen some people leverage these questions to give themselves credibility on LinkedIn. So I know people that do these things, and then you get that badge and it says, top voice in Nigeria on communications or something, or top specialist in so and so. And for those of us who are trying to use LinkedIn for business purposes, I think it would be a good idea to take part in these sorts of things. Even though it's quite a bit of work, I think it's going to be worth it at the end of the day. So that when people check you out on LinkedIn, you see that your LinkedIn profile, first of all, is verified. So if you have a passport, so those of us in Niger, if you have I think it's an NCC passport, that's the passport that has a microchip, the one that, people don't have to look at and type out all the information. You can just take the passport and then scan, when you're at the airport, and then all the details will just show up. So if you have all those new school passports, then use that, verify your LinkedIn profile, answer a bunch of all those questions, so that when it opens up and, people search for you, they say, Christopher Ogedengbe, verified profile, top voice in Nigeria on marketing, something like that. It would really help to boost your credibility. So don't be like me, don't be lazy. And this episode is just going to be me answering the question that actually I should have gone on LinkedIn to answer, so that I can get my own badge as well as a top voice on sales and business development in Nigeria and things of that nature. So the comment, or rather the question, I was going to say the question in question. Let me just say it anyway. So the question in question today is a scenario where you are facing a critical client and you're in a high-stakes sales pitch. The question is, can you master the art of persuasive public speaking? So let me read it again. Facing a critical client in a high-stakes sales pitch. Can you master the art of persuasive speaking? Now, one of the reasons why I don't like answering these questions is because the questions are phrased in a certain way and make too many assumptions. People go ahead and answer the question, and there are a bunch of people who are talking about how you can master the art of persuasive public speaking. But in my own opinion, going straight and focusing on persuasive public speaking kind of misses the whole point. Anyway, before I go and explain everything, let me go into the geek list or the nerd list for today and explore stuff that I have on the playlist. So on the playlist on Spotify, I'm currently listening to this Irish band from 2001. The Script, that's what they're called, The Script. They were really famous, at least in the UK anyway, they were famous with this song, The Man Who Can't Be Moved. and it's a correct band, yeah, but it's mostly soft rock, all these heartbreak songs, things like that. For some reason, I don't know any girls who listen to the script, so it's mostly boys who like the script, because of course it's songs about guys being heartbroken and stuff like that. So if you're a Nigerian guy listening to this podcast and a babe has done you strong thing in the past, like real strong thing, then you might enjoy listening to the script. So soft rock, real nice. Then, still on this Netflix thing, Jack Reacher, I'll try and finish it up today. Like somebody said on social media one time, that how you know when you're becoming an adult is when it takes you 4 days to watch a 2-hour movie. So I guess I'm officially an adult now. Okay, so back to the question. Facing a critical client in a high-stakes sales pitch, can you master the art of persuasive public speaking? Now, that thing just misses the whole point. You shouldn't be going straight to persuasive public speaking. We need to have the right expectations when it comes to these sorts of things. So, first off, is this thing truly high stakes? Because a lot of people say when the money is big, then the thing is high stakes. But that's not necessarily the case. When you say high stakes, it's not just how big is the reward, it's also how big is the potential loss. So because the money is 1M or 1 billion, doesn't necessarily mean it's high stakes. Well, it depends. If you're coming from a 10K background and then we're now talking about 1M or 1 billion, then, I understand how that looks like it's big. But I think the right frame of mind to take is that you actually have got nothing to lose. You invested time and money into this deal, just like you have invested time and money into any other deal. So long as you are not risking a significant amount of your own money in this, then really it's just another deal. And the fact that the 000 is high doesn't mean you should start shaking. So it doesn't necessarily mean that this thing is high stakes. Whether it's high stakes or not will not just be how big is the reward, but also what is the big potential for loss. So don't start giving yourself heartache or heartbreak just because, the zeros are plenty. So we don't always have to be afraid from the get. So the money is big, yes. It doesn't necessarily mean that you should be scared. So don't get scared from the beginning. Not everything is high stakes, even though the money is big. Then, number 2, this whole thing of sales pitch. It says you're facing a critical client and you're in a high-stake sales pitch. Now, in my own opinion, and if you've been listening to this podcast for any length of time, I hope by now that you will agree with me that if you're at the level of sales pitch, you are already in a losing proposition. Already, you are losing. You should try to engage in a conversation. This whole thing of a sales pitch is that you're assuming all kinds of things. You're assuming like you know who this person is, you know the problem, you know what they're trying to solve, blah, blah, blah. And the sales pitch, you're trying to be cool, trying to be slick, trying to be all that. But just fashion this whole thing about sales pitch. Try and engage people in a conversation and try and move this thing forward step by step, one by one. This whole thing of making the sale hinge on one pivotal moment where you stand up and you make a masterful pitch and you wow them with your eloquence and everything. I beg, it's unnecessarily. In fact, that is what will make this whole thing high stakes, because everything now hinges on how you handle yourself in this pitch or in this presentation. For me, I like to do the work at the relationship stage, at the conversational stage, so that by the time we get to this whole presentation meeting, it's more or less a formality. For me, the presentation is, I'm just trying to confirm, okay, these are all the things you've been talking about. Did I understand everything properly? Okay, if I understood everything properly, then in order for us to achieve XYZ, I'm going to need 1, 2, 3 from you guys. Are we all good on those terms? Okay, cool. So how soon can we start? So for me, I like it that by the time we get to the level of proposal, pitch, presentation, whatever you call it, the thing is just a formality. Because in the small conversations that we've been having up till now, we've pretty much just sealed the whole thing. So stop making things turn on this grand sales pitch that you're going to have to do. Now, yes, I understand that there are some businesses where you cannot avoid it. Like I think I don't know how it still runs in advertising, but back when my mom was a communications professional, it was the tradition that the client would invite three different firms or three different agencies, each to make a pitch, and then from there they would decide. So there'll be a day, the three competitors will show up on the same day, and then there'll be a pitch, and then they will decide. And just that's just how it was. So what's this thing called? These people that used to make gala, UAC, United African Company. So that was the sort of thing. So like UAC, there'll be a day, Monday, 21st June or something, and then the three companies will be there. So my mom had worked with TQC, that's the Quadrant Company. She'd worked with Marketing Communications and Advertising, and she also worked with there were three or four companies under the Troika Group, and my mom had worked with all of them. And then they had a bunch of competitors. So that's just how it was. So UAC would say, "Oh yeah, all of you come and pitch," and then you guys show up and then you pitch. So if you're in that space, then well, my ideas still work anyway. I would still try to make sure that in the small conversations with the key stakeholders leading up to it, we show that I want to be sure that I'm a contender, for the deal. But outside of these sorts of situations, please stop making things rely on some grand sales pitch, and then you're worried. How well am I dressed? The PowerPoint, is the PowerPoint well composed? My eloquence, my elocution, is everything on point? And all this unnecessary headache. Then there's this whole thing of persuasive public speaking. In my own opinion, if we are making a pitch or a presentation or a proposal, I don't classify that as public speaking, because I still want us to have this mind frame that if we're in front of a potential customer, we're making a presentation, this is not a public speaking event. We are still having a conversation. And at this stage, you should have established relationships, individual relationships, with every single person at the table prior to this meeting. You should have been doing multi-threading. So if it's a presentation where MD of the company is there, head of procurement is there, what else? I don't know, 3-4 people from the business. It is my hope that at this stage, you already have been talking, WhatsApping, emailing one-on-one with every single person on this panel and have established relationships. In this sort of situation where you already know everybody and we're all cool, we can't really call this thing a public speaking event. So I really think that persuasive public speaking does not apply, or rather should not apply in these sorts of situations. You should have established relationships with everybody ahead of time. This thing should just be a simple conversation. You should show up to confirm that your understanding of the situation is correct and you know where everybody's heading, everybody's head is at, things like that. So the final assumption that this question makes is that there's such a thing as a perfect pitch or there's a perfect PowerPoint. Now, this is one area where I'm going to disagree. Okay, not disagree. What's the word? Diverge with some professionals out there, because my wife is in the legal space, and once in a while she does have to make presentations at different kinds of stakeholder events and things like that. And then of course my mom was also in not also, because my mom was not in a legal space. My mom was a marketing communication professional, like I said. And so my mom was one of these people who, for her, everything turned on the perfect pitch and the perfect PowerPoint. In fact, she used to say that she likes to kill people with PowerPoints, like come up with the perfect PowerPoint presentation. And of course that worked for her. And I guess it makes sense because my mom came from a media and journalism background. So people who come from that background, my mom, my dad, they went to school, they learned all these sorts of things. Okay, for those of you who used to watch TV back in the day, Niger TV, think Cyril Stober. Now, Cyril Stober was one of Popsy's classmates. I think, if I remember correctly, I think Cyril Stober was Popsy's classmate. So that is the ilk of Nigerians that we're now talking about. Or like I've seen Bisi Olatilo. He used to have this Bisi Olatilo show on AIT. I've seen him as a wedding MC. Bisi Olatilo, that guy is on point. As in no stammering, no pausing, no mispronunciation. Courage is on point. Elocution is on point. as the guests were entering in for the wedding, he knew everybody by name. I mean, the guy was just masterful. So for people like that, who have received years of professional training and schooling and things like that, yes, they can build something around the perfect pitch or around the perfect PowerPoint. I mean, that is how they have been trained. In fact, with the level of training that they have received, because like my father went to, he did a diploma in London on radio production and stuff like that. So in fact, if someone like my father should be hosting this podcast and he's sniffing or coughing or doing like how I'm doing it, you should knock him on the head, because you went to school for this thing, so you best be 100% on point. So there are certain kinds of Nigerians that, yes, you can build this whole thing around perfect pitch and perfect PowerPoint. But for the rest of us who haven't spent a decade in school learning about elocution, production, presentation, what else? All these sorts of things. When we head into the meeting, what we should try to do is confirm our understanding of these people's business context based on the conversation that we've been having before. Like I said, if there are 4 members of the panel, for your own sake, I hope you have been in conversation with at least 3 of the members of the panel before we got to this presentation stage. Confirm that you understand their business context. Confirm that you understand the problems that they face or the vision that they're heading towards. Confirm that you understand the downside if they don't do anything, and also confirm, the upside, the kind of goals that they're trying to hit. Then you will now talk through. Remember, this doesn't have to be a masterful presentation. I'm talking about those of us who didn't go to school to learn elocution and to learn presentation skills and to learn, every. So show how your product or service can meet all these needs, solve all these problems. Then allow for some question and answer all the questions that they have, and then confirm what the next steps are. Don't leave a proposal or presentation with this whole thing of, oh, thank you very much, Mr. Ayede. We've seen your presentation. We'll get back to you. You need to get some next steps. You finish, you say, okay, if there are no other questions, typical clients we've worked with in the past have taken 4 days to review the proposal. Is that going to be fine in this case? And then you keep quiet, and then you hear. And then if they say, okay, yes, 4 days is more than enough for us to consider the proposal, you say, okay, fine, no problem. So that means I'm going to be calling you guys Tuesday next week for your decision. Is that fine? And they'll say, oh, yes, Mr. Ayede, that's fine. And then you know that you can pack your bags and you can leave. And we have agreed that the next step now is I call Tuesday so that we know what the decision is. Now, there are different kinds of next steps that you can aim for, but I'm just using this as an example to show how you don't need to finish your presentation and then they say, oh, thank you very much, we'll get back to you, and then you smile and say, okay, thank you, and then you pack your computer and then you leave and you think you've done a good job because they clap for you and they say, we'll get back to you. Confirm what the next step is. Then of course, if you win, then of course, begin fulfillment now. Start trying to execute on all the things you promised. If you lost the deal, the next stage is engage everybody in conversation. Do a debrief. Figure out why you lost the thing. And that's one thing that lots of people, when they see me do, they're shocked. Like the first time my mom saw me do this with one of a media bid that I lost, she was like, wow, like you're really brave. And I was like, brave? Isn't it just what you're supposed to do? Because I called up the lady and I just went cheeky, very personal. So let's just say her name is Sikira. So I was like, hey, Sikira, how now? Blah, blah, blah. About that Kano contract, how far now? You people don't want me to pay school fees. Why now? And then we laughed over it. And then, from there, I went straight into asking questions. So was there any particular part of the proposal that you guys didn't like? And it turned out that the reason why I lost the bid was they could tell from the content of my proposal that I was going to subcontract the whole thing. But they would have preferred that I handle the thing myself rather than subcontracting to someone that I did not know. And of course, I told her that, Sikira, I was thinking that budget was a problem now. That's why I did it like this. And then she said, of course, but next time, it is you that we know. So just put it there, put your transport, put your accommodation, put everything, and then let us decide. I was like, okay, cool. No problem. Next time, I'll do it like that. I didn't get a chance to propose to that particular team, but I did get another bid through with another crew, and happened to work with Sikira again. Sikira is not her real name, by the way. So got to work with Sikira, and I'm hoping that that's going to leave room for more profitable business relationships between me and her own team in the future. But it was a simple debrief conversation. Depending on the level of rapport or the level of relationship you've built with them, it doesn't have to be excessively formal, because how I started off the conversation basically was to say, Sikira, how you doing now? Blah, blah, that kind of project, how is it going? It's going on good? Okay, no problem. But Kai, Sikira, you did me strong thing. You would want me to pay school fees. Why now? What happened? And that's how I started the conversation. And then from there, you laugh back and forth. And then I started asking specific questions. Was it this part of the proposal? Didn't I understand this correctly? No, you understood this correctly. You understand that correctly. So what was the main reason why I lost out? It's because from this section, we could tell that you are the one who was not going to fulfill it. And we had a conversation. So we should be having all those conversations. The debrief, really, really important. If you've not been doing it, make sure you do it. In the beginning, it might seem scary, but look, we're big boys here. We're big boys and we're big girls. Just let's do what needs to be done. The first debrief conversation, you might be scared and you might fumble, but after a while, don't worry, you'll get the hang of it. Then, but ultimately, whether you win or whether you lose, take whatever feedback you get and then roll it over into the next engagement. And this is how we get better over time. So the correct attitude is you live to fight another day. Because the money is big, don't think that this whole thing is big. Don't enter this whole thing shaking. Don't worry, God takes care of us all. He will bring another big deal for you, even if this one doesn't click. But don't just go in assuming it's high stakes because the money is big. If you're going to risk losing plenty of money, then yes, it is high stakes. Then stop entering these things with a sales pitch mindset. Just assume that you guys are having a conversation, that the conversation is just continuing. It's just that before, conversation was a 1-1, but now the conversation is all of us are sitting at the table. Assume it's a conversation. Don't try and practice persuasive public speaking skills at this sort of thing. Continue as if it's a conversation, except if you're like my father or you're like my mom, you went to journalism school, they taught you people everything, how to sit down, how to dress, how to talk, the right words to say, how to be persuasive, how to this and that, and whatever it is that they teach people in journalism school. If you're an everyday ordinary person like me, who doesn't have that kind of polish, that kind of education, that kind of whatever, just go in there and assume that this is a conversation and just continue the conversation. So, Madam President, Madam CEO, Madam this person, if I understand our prior communications and our prior emails correctly, this is what the organization is trying to achieve. You're faced with this and this and this and that, and you're hoping to achieve so and so in Q2 of 2025. Is that correct? And, they'll say, yes, this is correct, or that is not correct. Well, either way, I'm just saying it's a conversation. Have a simple conversation with these people. And, that's it. Just have a simple conversation with these people. And over time, if you're getting feedback, taking correction, over time, you should be all right. So that's the way that I would have answered this whole thing of you're facing a critical client. It's a high-stakes sales pitch. How do you master the art of persuasive public speaking? And that is also another reason why I've stopped answering these questions, because the way that they phrase it is not correct. It requires too much nuance. And by the time you're trying to nuance, you end up writing a book in response to a question, and the wahala is not just worth it. So I will continue with what I have done today. The next time I see another one, I will just make a recording and put it up here, because actually, this is 25 minutes. Yeah, I think it's a lot easier for me to spend 25 minutes trying to answer this thing over here on the podcast than trying to sit at the keyboard, because to try and answer this thing adequately on the keyboard will end up taking like 45 minutes, 1 hour, because The good thing about talking is you can talk and ramble. People still understand what you're saying. But if you write and ramble, then you sound like an idiot. So you actually have to write and then delete and then write and no, rewrite this paragraph and then write again and then write again. So anyway, yeah, that's it for today. I'll catch you guys at the next episode. Connect with me on WhatsApp. The phone number is 080-6466-2140. Country code is +234. Then you can connect with me on LinkedIn. My name is Tavishima Ayede, the host of the show. You can confirm the spelling of my name from the link where you're listening to this episode. So just highlight my name from the link. Like if you're listening on what's that thing called again? YouTube. So if you're listening on YouTube, you just take the cursor and is it left click and drag? It'll highlight my name and then copy and then paste in LinkedIn. My handsome face pops up. Send me a connection request and I'll be in touch with you. We can have a conversation in 24 hours, 48 hours. So thanks for your time and attention. I'll catch you guys at the next episode.